Today I am reviewing Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile. It's a Poirot novel. I think of the novels I've read chronologically in this project I'm working on, this by far comes off as the strongest novel. It's fantastic, in fact. And I think Christie's really hit her stride. This was written in 1937. She's enjoying great success, so we're seeing just strong novel after strong novel, and I think this one is great because it reaches beyond the subgenre of detective fiction, and I think takes on some real literary significance, which I'll explain a little bit. There are a lot of literary resonances. There are a lot of ideas that I think carry on further than the conventional idea of the whodunit, of the plot, of trying to figure out some ingenious murder. And it's all of those things as well. There is a great plot. There is a great solution to the plot, and you've got a great setting. It's one of Christie's travel novels. So there are many, many things to like about this novel. So I just jumped on Wikipedia, and I'm going to read to you quickly their kind of almost like a teaser introduction to this novel. While dining at the chic restaurant Chez Ma Tante, Poirot overhears Jacqueline de Belfort and Simon Doyle speaking to one another and is concerned by the depth of her love for him. When he next meets her, it's far away in Egypt, and Simon Doyle is married to the woman who was once Jacqueline de Belfort's best friend, the wealthy and beautiful Lynette Ridgway. Jacqueline seems determined to have her revenge on them both. Can Poirot persuade her to abandon a course of action that promises disaster to everyone? And of course he cannot, and disaster ensues. This novel has a heavy body count. There's 5 deaths in the novel, and rather gruesome deaths in some ways. Now there are a number of literary allusions in the novel. There are a couple biblical allusions early on. First, the prophet Nathan is mentioned in a conversation that Poirot has with Lynette Doyle before she's murdered. Basically, he accuses her of doing the same thing that David did in the Bible with Bathsheba. Basically, she stole someone else's love, and he comes down rather hard on her, and in fact, will not help her when she asks for his help. The second biblical allusion is also one that is directed at Lynette, and Poirot and one of the characters are discussing, they mention Naboth's vineyard. This is a reference to an Old Testament story about King Ahab, whose wife will always be remembered for her name, Jezebel. In this story, Ahab sees Naboth's vineyard, and it's close to his palace, and he says, well, I want that for my vegetable garden. So, and so he asks Naboth. Naboth goes, no, you can't have it. And so the queen says, I'll leave it to me. So she invites him to a big dinner and has Naboth be the guest of honor, and then she denounces him, and she has a couple of hired hands come in and say that Naboth had cursed God. And so Naboth is taken out of the city and stoned to death. A final literary reference of some significance is a small French poem that Poirot recites to one of the characters, and roughly translated it goes like this. It's called Little Thing, and it says, life is vain, a little love, a little hatred, and then good day. The second stanza, life is short, a little hope, a little dream, and then good evening. So it's very short and very to the point and very apropos given what happens in this story. Now the setting itself becomes another important element in the success of this novel. Of course, it's Egypt. It's probably her most successful travel novel, or novel with an exotic setting. And this plays out in a couple ways. First, we have the tension of that we always have in Christie novels with colonialism. How do you see this group of English people with this one Belgian man, of course Poirot, and they're kind of a small enclave of British folk in one of the colonies, or in another part of the world. Here in this case, they're in Egypt, and and it's almost as if they're trying to kind of make sense, you know, hang on to their own societal values within an area that does not conform to that. And in some cases, they're trying to impose it. Poirot and one of the English ladies on the boat both just kind of talk rather dismissively about the impoverished children who are always running around them begging for things or trying to sell them trinkets. And even Poirot has this kind of ornamental fly swatter that's more like a kind of an overgrown shaving brush of horsehair that is used to kind of swat flies, but he's even kind of gesturing it toward these children. So we see these a very unsympathetic, very almost clinical approach to people outside of Anglo culture. The second thing that's so amazing about the setting is that the setting, along with Christie's own knowledge of the Near East from her archaeological work with her husband, her second husband rather, it helps her to paint this picture of Egypt that's monumental. They go to places like the Temple of Abu Simbel, where we have these large, stunning statues of Ramesses II, even painted here on the book cover. We have the pyramids, we have the Nile itself, and then set against this lush, mythic, timeless kind of backdrop, this novel and the story in it takes on almost a kind of almost like a Greek tragedy. It's definitely got that feel to it. You get a sense that something bigger is going on here. Now, one of the major themes is love and marriage. We've got the love triangle, I think, and then there's the idea of revenge on this man-stealing woman. Jacqueline, she sort of plays this game of stalking the honeymoon couple, and she follows them all over Europe and just shows up in the same places and says, oh, what a coincidence, and it's getting on Lynette's nerves. And then she ends up in Egypt as well. One wonders, as Christie turns around this love triangle and deals with it in so many novels, if she's not thinking of her own first disastrous marriage where there was another woman and it ended horribly for her. I don't know. There's also an optimistic view of love in the novel. You have the pairing off of a couple of men and women, and I kind of call it the love boat factor for this novel, because it kind of happens at the end when they're leaving the boat, almost like when Captain Stubing's at the love boat and he's saying goodbye to all the passengers who have now been happily coupled and going off together into wedded bliss. A couple other things is a great framing device of just common people talking about this rich heiress, Lynette Ridgway, before she died and then after she died. First they're displaying jealousy over the fact that she's got money and they don't, and they're just sitting in a bar talking about this in England, not far from her country estate. In the end, the news gets out all around the world that this rich heiress has died, and they go on and they say, well, you know, she didn't deserve all that money, but boy, that's tragic. But let's go on. And that seems to be kind of a thrust of the novel, is that life goes on, life moves forward. And in that respect, that French poem that I was talking about earlier that Poirot recites could almost be a sort of structural device for this novel. That there's some love, there's jealousy, there's hope, there's dreams. But it's also, there is a sense of cynicism about it that one can't get away from. The denouement is great. Poirot doesn't gather everyone together, he just tells a few people. This is one of the few novels where Poirot has a direct conversation with the murderer, and they talk about it. That makes for a very interesting passage toward the end. I think it's a fantastic novel, and I have to borrow from Stephen Sondheim, I think, because Poirot kind of almost learns a lesson, like the Red Riding Hood character in that musical, who comes to the conclusion that nice is different than good. Poirot meets people who are nice, but they aren't necessarily good people. You get the sense that Poirot is saddened by the evil that people allow into their hearts. I give it a 5 out of 5. The next story will be Appointment with Death, another Poirot novel, another travel novel. Should be good.